We are not alone. You are watching Contact TV with your hosts, Leslie Mitchell-Clark
and Wes Roberts,
exploring ufology, metaphysics, and beyond with the world's foremost experts. Out there in interweb land, this is Leslie Mitchell-Clark, co-host of Contact TV, and I am joined as always by my intrepid co-host,
Wes Roberts, however intrepid.
We are intrepid, we are fearless, we are moving forward, and we are also like beyond excited because we have tried to have this wonderful individual on the show a number of times before, and it has finally worked out time-wise. And I am so pleased to introduce to you our guest for today, Ms. A.B. Neely, who is not only an educator and an author, but she is also the founder of Promethea Press, which is a very forward-thinking, fascinating new publishing imprint, global imprint. But A.B. Neely, and you may call her Anna if you wish, is also a gifted astrologer and magician. So we are really excited to maybe divert our normal, our more common stream of commentary to something that is fascinating in every kind of way I can think. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Anna, Ms. A.B. Neely, to Contact TV. Hello, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Leslie and Wes. I'm so happy of being here. I feel honored. I mean, it's like, wow, I love your program. And it's like, oh, I'm going to be interviewed by them. It's so exciting.
Oh, excellent, my dear. Well, we're so pleased to have you. And I know that both Wes and myself have long been fascinated with astrology. And I think my own feelings about it is astrology goes much, much deeper than the sort of surface thing that we see out and about in the media. And I know that there are lessons to be learned, and there are all kinds of divinations, because I believe we are born when we want to be born in complete symmetry with perhaps the chart that we maybe had a hand in creating. I don't know, but you know. So tell us.
Okay.
All.
So I have been studying astrology for almost 20 years now, and I have always felt that it was a very valuable tool. And right now, this is the reason I have decided to go public. I think it's more needed than ever, because we are in chaotic times.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to apply logic to everything we do. That's good. But there are certain circumstances where we cannot apply logic. Like when you go out and you say, okay, I'm going to meet with this friend, and suddenly you feel like discomfort and you wouldn't like to go, but you don't listen to you. And maybe because you went in this particular bus, you got the COVID. Mm-hmm. So you are not learning to listen to your intuition. So maybe if you stopped and said, I'm going back home, I don't feel well. Maybe you are avoiding you getting sick, your family. So it's not only logic, it's also intuition. We need to learn to navigate through this wall of change.
Fascinating.
Was mentioning, please go ahead. I was mentioning to Anna the other day, she's turned my mind around, my head around in terms of the value and accuracy of astrology, because she's able to say, well, you're going through something because of one of your transits. I don't understand the language. That's Anna's thing, but that's just a small comment on how she's been able to convince me.
Well, I think, Anna, would you say that understanding your astrological chart in no way takes away from your responsibility?
No. Okay, sorry.
Continue. Common misunderstanding, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is an idea that either we are determined, so we cannot make choices. Okay, so if I do a tarot reading or I know my astrological chart, then I know what's going to happen to me, so I cannot make choices. And then because of that, I'm going to do what is going to happen to me, like the prediction that creates itself. Mm-hmm. So that's a misunderstanding at all. Astrology is a tool. So as time goes by, it has evolved. And it's very different, the kind of astrology you can, for example, find in India, that it's very accurate to predict, because they can't even predict the moment you are going to die. Because this kind of society they live in, it's a very predetermined society. You have a society where if you have a lot of Aquarius, Uranus, and you are a woman, you are going to be doomed, because you are going to want to be free, and you will not accomplish the rules they want you to follow. So you will have a lot of problems. So it's very easy to predict a person's life in a very established environment. So that's one way you can use astrology, but that's not the way I'm interested in, because the kind of society we live in, it's very changeable. You can choose how you want to live. So why would I want to know what's going to happen to me? I don't want to know that. What I want to know is, how can I be free of the constraints of my life? Mm-hmm. I was talking with Georgina Cannon the other day, and we were talking about what took her to hypnosis, and was that 90% of our movements every day are subconscious and repetitive. So astrology can help you to see what is the subconscious pattern you are following. We humans are predictable because we are following subconscious patterns that we have inherited.
I see. Well, that makes an awful lot of sense. So would you say, Anna, I know you touched on this briefly, there are different schools of astrology out there in the mix, Chinese astrology. Is everything, are all of these astrologies systems, are they agreeing upon the constellations and the movement of the constellations?
Yes.
Ah.
No, I mean, they see different patterns.
Different patterns, but the same cosmology, if you will.
No, it's different because every culture creates a different pattern, and they have different archetypes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, I do a lot of astrological charts to people from Japan, and sometimes there are things that doesn't work the same for them as for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are certain configurations that are problematic for a woman. For instance, when you have a lot of Neptune with Moon, and women can be felt trapped by their mothers. In Japan, because they have this strong relationship with their ancestors, for them there is no problem there.
Yeah,
it's just something nice. I have a good relationship with my mother.
But same planets and same stars.
The same planets and the same energy.
Right.
So that tells us that it depends how you face the kind of energy you have. You can work with it, or you can be a victim of it.
Perfect.
And then there is another issue with astrology that I think is, as human beings, we have learned to control the environment, to control ourselves, to control others. We don't really relate to the rest of the world as beings, other people with their own ideas, with their own needs, etc. We just see at the world and see, what can I get from this? When I meet you, Leslie West, what are you going to give me? Mm-hmm. How can I take advantage of this? Mm-hmm. So that's what the technological mind that we have evolved, and it's great, is telling us. But we need to evolve a new, different kind of mind that is that of the link.
I see.
So when we establish a link with a person, it's not just my natal chart, it's your natal chart. And now they are evolving together. Mm-hmm. They are moving together. And then those two natal charts are connected with the natal charts of my ancestor and your ancestors, of the culture, of the country you live in, with the stars that are right now. So it's like a web of connections, interconnected, where you don't really know, you discover that you don't really know where you start and when the other person starts. Where is the limit of personality? Is there something that's individual personality? So it's what I really love about astrology is that trains the person to start connecting with the universe, not from the technological mind, but from the full being that is part of something that is more mysterious. I mean, this started because somebody looked up, and you cannot have this kind of experience in a city. But when you go to a desert, when you go to a place where there is no light, and you look up and you look at the sky, you feel how little we are. It just puts you in your place. It's like,
indeed.
And that sense of mystery, you can train it in your daily life. You can learn to see the signs. I mean, I think that the natal chart, it's a tool to develop our senses, so that we are able to wake up in the morning and say, oh, today is a mercurial day, so I'm going to do a lot of reading because that's the current of the day.
Yeah. So if this is a way, like meditation and many other disciplines, to kind of put you in the flow. I mean, a proper interpretation of your astrological issues would be putting you in the flow, making you aware. Now, I know that in Chinese astrology, are we talking really more about generational planets? Because, you know, there are these long periods of time. I forget how long it takes for them to move through their figures of astrology, but I know that it has to do more with years. So, you know, just for example, my partner and myself are the same Chinese astrological sign, and we are most of the time, Wes, 99.9% of the time. You saw the 1% where there was a bad scene, but anyway, most of the 1%, most of the time we are completely temperamentally aligned. So, and I would imagine that were you to do our respective natal charts and maybe a progressive, I think that's what it's called, you would probably see that same alignment in perspective in our traditional astrological charts as well.
Well, when you meet with a person and you establish a bond with that person, it's because you have planets that are aligned. This is a matter of vibration.
Yes.
You know, if you maybe, I don't know if you have had this experience, like somebody has talked to you about somebody and you think this person is going to be really amazing to meet, and then you meet, I don't have anything to say at each other. And then you leave and you forget about that person forever and you never meet her again or him again. Well, if you look at the two natal charts, you can say there are no alineation between their planets. There is no common vibration. And that creates, there is no interest. There is no energy there to meet, to create the bond.
So people who are, individuals who are in specifics, and we'll just talk about sun signs for the moment because it's the easiest thing to do. It's far more, I know, Anna, it's extremely complex, someone's chart. But in the generalized sun signs, I always feel attracted to the same astrological people. Mostly Leos, and I am an Aquarius, and in fact that is the designated complement. It's direct. My husband is a Leo. Now also my mother, who was really challenging, is also a Leo. So not only do I attract Leos in my friendships, my husband is a Leo, but I have been made to or not been made to. I have in my chart faced a Leo of lower type. So it's a lot of Leos, and I guess you would expect to see that with most Aquarians, or does that make me a little unusual?
Well, the sun sign is not doesn't determine what you like or what are you going to meet. Normally, we feel attracted, and at the same time, we don't like the people from our rising sign.
Yeah.
The rising sign. So I don't know which one is your rising sign.
Leo, actually, oddly.
That's it. Because the Leo is an energy that you have in your life, but you haven't evolved yet. So you attract a lot of people with those characteristics because you need to develop it yourself.
Oh, wow. That's very, so I would really need to be more assertive and place myself in a primary position, which seems to be very effortless for many Leos.
It's not just that. I mean, you have, when you look at the signs, you have like a way of playing the signs that is less evolved. Like it's more unconscious, and then there is another way that is more, it gives less problems.
I see.
So the Aquarius, no, it's just a start in the middle of other stars. Aquarius has this feeling of not belonging.
Yeah.
Aquarius has the weird feeling that is always the weird one. The one that speaks too much or too little, or is too tall or too short. But it's like you are not always like the rest of the people. Yeah, but Leo knows I am the center, has this feeling of center. Yeah. So the real evolution of the signs is when you are able to be both at the same time, because the contraries, one of the things you learn to think about with astrology is the contraries. And I'm going to put you an example of that. So Taurus is, you know, it's a beautiful mammal who is always on the sun, eating grass, you know, it's like the sign of accumulating life, of getting life through foods and feelings and sensations and being happy in this life and not to have to worry about anything, you know, about the physical, everything. And then we have the opposite, that is Scorpio. Scorpio is death, is power, is passion, is fight, is going into the deep of human consciousness to gather the jewel that is under the shit, with pardon, but that's very... So how can you see Taurus under the sun and a Scorpio there on the dirt, you know, and think it's the same? Indeed. Well, think of what's eating the Taurus. He is eating grass. That's the death of the grass. Where did come the grass from? From the dirt. So you start to see like the life cannot live without death. And you start to see that both are the same. And you see the connection. And when this happens, there is something that happens in our brains that we see it with clarity. But then an hour after this talk, you are going to think about this and you are going to say, yeah, they are the same, but I don't see it. You have to do again this logical thinking to get to put them together. Because our mind thinks different contrary things are different things.
I see. Well, I'm going to ask you probably a very basic, stupid question, but I think it's a question that many of our listeners might be interested in. Now, in the realm of past life regression, you know, I do a lot of that kind of work. It seems that people, to me, are born in the same astrological sign many times. Now, some people believe that you work your way around the zodiac as you develop. And indeed, it seems to me like many Aries people that I have known are very new souls and very ego-based. And if I have a conflict with anyone in the zodiac, it is invariably with Aries people, because they are like the children. They're so sure, and they have such, in my mind, an ego-based perspective. But again, that's just my perception. So is this a thing? Do you believe in incarnations, that we move through the zodiac to have different types of experiences? Or is our place in the zodiac just a part of our soul identity, who we are at our core and at our essence?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because first sees evolution as something linear. Like, you start at Aries and you end evolution at Pisces. But don't forget, after Pisces is Aries. We are talking about a not a linear system in astrology.
A non-linear system. Okay.
We are talking about a circular system. I think that the movie that talks better about what this makes to your brain is Arrival. I don't know how you have seen
Oh, yes. Yes.
So there we have a circular system of thinking that changes the minds and allows you to see the future. And that's precisely what astrology is.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
It's a circular system of thinking that allows you to see out of time.
Yes.
So we perceive time. So I think that reincarnation is not something linear. And for example, I think that we have some kind of perception of out of time, our whole being, that somebody calls the daimonic self, the higher self, etc. It's out of time. So you create your reincarnations, picking up what you need to have a whole version of everything. So you could start being a Pisces, but there is no start. That's the issue. Our language doesn't have. It's like, can you imagine like somebody and a lot of spheres, and I pick 2,000 spheres from different perspectives, different times, different planets, maybe different dimensions, and then I have a whole picture of what existence is. So one of the things that when we think about this going out of the linear, and it's about our connection. So one of the things that people says against astrology is, how is it that planets affects us? I don't know if planets affects us. I think that we are all dancing the same dance. And we look at the planets because the planets are those who have a more predictable movement.
Right.
But they all, I mean, the Greeks used to predict looking at the movement of birds.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, we couldn't do that because we don't have the same species. It's very complicated to use the same system. But the stars are still the same.
They are constant.
From the ancient Greeks.
Yes.
So we can use them I mean, the same way we use the stars to navigate through the sea. We can use the stars to navigate us through our experience.
And through astrological progression, we can know what eras were informed by different signs. For instance, I think it's pretty much accepted now that the Great Sphinx, which was not originally the face of, you know, what's his name? It was a lion face. It had to do with the era of Leo that was coming. And of course, we're talking now, if we study the planetary progressions, we know when that was. We know that was 12,000 years ago or whatever. So so the Egyptians must have adhered to an astrological system Wes, you're so knowledgeable about ancient Egypt. Have you seen evidence of astrology in your Egyptian studies?
Yes, definitely to an extent, and to some entities that might manifest some attributes of the planets as well.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to make a comment too on what Anna said a little bit earlier. So I suppose that you join this life in progress, not at a static point.
Well, that's a very interesting question. We tend to see us as the center of the universe. Okay, we see time as something inert, something that it's just there to use. I have half a minute or 10 hours to do this job. But my point of view is that time is quality. And time in this species in the earth, not only us, but all the species that are flourishing in the earth, where we are just the last, for the moment, product. Time manifests in different products, and we are one of those products. So there is a moment in time, the day you were born, that had these particular qualities. They had, a lot of power because of Aries, a lot of intelligence because Mercury on Gemini, blah, blah, blah. And then that point that would have come and gone manifested in Leslie, manifested in Wes, manifested in Anna. And those moments of time are now interacting with the rest of the moments that are coming every second. Are interacting with other moments of time. And we can see how that interaction sometimes is very difficult when we see the difference between generations.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is really a quantum entanglement thing that you are talking about. You're talking about quantum relationships here. And and of course, coming from my perspective, I would take that into the interlife. What we are doing and planning before we come into the dense physical reality. And because it's fascinating, the astrological makeups of families, isn't it? Oh. That to me is fascinating. What my mother, again, a Leo, a conflict of Leo, your mother, your father. I am blessed because my siblings and I are so compatible. I'm a fixed air sign. My sister Karen is a Karina is a Leo, is a Libra, and my late brother was a Gemini. We were just almost like one person. I now understand that that's a little bit unusual, that more commonly siblings have diverse signs, and there may be conflicts or things to learn or lessons to learn. You both have a lot of siblings. Wes, you have 4
I have
sisters?
I have living 2 sisters.
You have now living 2 sisters.
And lots of nephews and nieces.
Are they would you say there are astrological patterns there? Do you remember your mother's astrological sign?
She's a September baby, the 14th.
So yeah. She's a Virgo.
Yeah, so 3 of us, 2 of us were born in August. Debbie and myself were born in August, 2 days apart.
So
3 of us, but Susan at the end of August is a different sign.
But on the cusp, no doubt.
Yeah.
So out of that, so there could be as many as 3 Leos among your siblings.
That would be true.
Very interesting. And Anna, now you have siblings. I know one of your dear sister is passed. My dear brother is passed. How was the breakdown poor word. How did it work out in your family astrologically?
Well, when I look at the families, I don't see the sun signs, because the sun sign is just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
It's just like comparing medicine to take a cup of chamomile tea. Okay? A chamomile tea can't calm you, but it's not everything that medicine is about. So when you look at the astrology about the sun sign, it's just a little fragment of it. So what you can see in the families is that there is a very strong subject that is always the theme in every member of the family.
A theme.
Yes, and that theme can appear in the sun sign, can appear in the moon sign, can appear in the rising sign, can appear in certain configurations, you know, a very strong Neptune or a very strong Pluto. For example, the Kennedys have a very strong Pluto configuration.
Oh.
Maybe they are not all a Scorpio, but they have a Pluto with the sun or Pluto in a first house that makes them to want a lot of power and to be victims of that power. Because so it's about family configurations. It's not just about the sun sign.
I see.
In my family, it's the theme of Aquarius, of freedom, of Uranus, and also Neptune. Like there is a lot of that in my family, and it's very, very, very strong. And you can see how the same config. And my sister and me, who are the best friends, we speak by phone every day. We both have the moon in the same degree of Gemini.
Oh.
So Gemini's communication, we need to communicate. That's what makes us feel safe. So we speak with each other, and it's just absolutely agreement on everything, because we have the moon in the same exact degree conjunction. So it's like the best friends ever.
Yes.
So this is something. And about what you asked before about Egyptians and ancient people.
Oh, I think
there is one of the on the ceiling of some tomb.
Yes.
There are pictures of the Zodiac, but the Zodiac is represented with the Egyptian gods.
With Egyptian symbols and
as with the Greek, they represented the Zodiac with the Greek gods.
Yes, indeed.
So that's how it works in the different civilizations. But yeah, I mean, it's looking at the stars to see what's going on and what's going to happen and how things are going. That's a normal practice in every civilization you look at. So I don't think that we are all crazy.
Mm-hmm. No.
I am.
Are you?
Anna, I wanted to ask you something real practical for our viewers, because you've already opened the door to this topic, which is consultations. I know you've done consultations when I've been around. Obviously, I'm not in the same room, and I'm not listening in because it's a privilege, client privilege thing. But what I think you've indicated to me, not telling anything about your session, is that it takes a few minutes or half an hour in before you strike a chord with that client, before you find her or his common ground. So I'm curious to see if you can tell potential clients, people that want to come to you, how a session works.
Well, the kind of astrology I work with is transcendental astrology. Mm-hmm. So the idea is we are connected to what happens to us. What happens to us is part of who we are. So when you have certain events that repeat always the same, it's not just because you are psychologically looking for them, it's because there is something there that you are rejecting of yourself. So through astrology, we can deal with the daily problems, looking at the astrological qualities and seeing what do they have to say about our own evolution. So in my astrological consultation, it's not like the traditional one, you know. I have gone to astrologers, and many of them is like, hello, how are you? Okay, you have moon in Gemini, and this is this. You have Mars in this, and this is this. And Neptune here, and this is this. And then you go out there with a bunch of papers, and you look at that and you say, but this is contradictory with this. And I don't really know what I was told. Just like, it's very difficult to understand what we are talking about. So the kind of, not all astrologers, there are astrologers out there that are really good, but probably I have been with a few that were not so good.
Yeah, marginally trained.
So, but what I do is to talk with the person and see what's your problem, what's going on with you. And then according with what's going on with them right now, we see what pattern you are repeating. And then we can see what you need to change that pattern. First, you need to realize what's going on. And in our consultations, there is a point that happens in any therapy, although I don't do therapy, it's just consultation, but it happens in anything that heals. That is the person who is there laughs. This nervous laugh that, this is right. Okay, because I'm seeing what I was not seeing before. And then through astrology, you can try different techniques that have to do with, sometimes it's counterintuitive. Because, for example, if you have problems with your daughter or son, and they are little, sometimes it's because you are not accepting your own energy. So this child is expressing this energy in a disruptive way because you are not accepting. So if you change your own energy, then you can change the energy of the child. For example, I know the case of a couple who had a child that was very nervous all the time, a lot of Aquarius there, you know, and he was very nervous, you know, jumping around. They didn't know how to control him. He wanted to jump out of the windows, and they had to have a lot of stress to protect him. And they went to the astrologer, and he said, okay, so this is an Aquarius problem, a Uranus problem, so you have problems with your freedom. And that's the reason your son wants to get free. So is there anything you have always thought you wanted to do, but you haven't allowed because you thought it was silly? And the couple said, well, we would like to go dancing. And they went dancing, and suddenly the child was more happier. He was not so distressed because there was a good movement, not against this energy, but canalizing this.
Yeah.
So there are not recipes, you know, it's in the interaction with the client where the answers come. And it's not easy. It's sometimes it's a part of science. Astrology is a part of science and a part of divination. And at the end, it's an art.
Yes.
So if you could take all the elements and you put them together, some of them are completely contradictory. So you need to see how this plays in the person. How is it for you? You know, first person I studied with Jesus Bueno in Tenerife, and he always told us, this is how, for example, Venus. This is Venus. Venus is the planet of kindness, of what you like. And if it is in a Scorpio, is this. And then he would turn to us after making all the explanation, and he would ask us, how is this for you? Because every person has a personal view of how this energy is working in their life. And that's what matters to me. To know how it's working on you, and how can we make that good for you, and how can make that less painful. Because unfortunately, there are people who have really hard natal charts to work with.
And they have written them that way.
Yeah. And they have this is part of our common evolution. This is not a person. We are talking now that we are in a moment in consciousness, that we are now everybody's Leo. We can all go to YouTube or to a podcast and be the protagonist for 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes. We can all be protagonists. And we have achieved that. And that's our peak as human consciousness, as a species. But we cannot continue being Leo and not considering that we are part of a system. So the next step in the evolution is to become Virgo. And Virgo is the planet, the sign of we are all part of a system. Not as humans, but with the earth, with the air, with plants, with everything that we do is part of a system inside our body. And COVID is giving us this message so strong. We are all part of a system. What you do can affect other people's lives, as other people's behavior can affect my life. So it's part of the message that we are going to be receiving from everything in the universe from now on. So COVID is just one more message in that direction. We are not alone. We are part of a system.
Yes.
We are part of a system that not only connects us with the air, it connects us with the planet, with the entire galaxy, with the universe. We are information beings that are able to get information from more and more and more places. And the more our commune intelligence evolves, more open we are going to be to alien species, to interdimensional travel. But first we need to stop thinking that we are at the peak of the universe and the lonely inhabitant.
Indeed. No, we're not even, as Randy Kramer would say, we haven't even been accepted as a class 1 society. So, you know, we're moving along. But in keeping with what you were talking about as far as a nonlinear quantum system, I think it would be fascinating. Now, I don't know if this is possible. Do you ever explore indications of past lives through an individual? Of course, it's all happening at once, but through an individual chart, can you see those kinds of predispositions of previous lifetimes?
Well, there is an aspect, I haven't studied that personally, but there is an aspect that is traditionally related to the past lives. That is the nodule, the north nodule and south nodule. So it's more like, and also Saturn is said that is related to past lives. So the north nodule is like where you are going in this life. What is your purpose for this life? And the south nodule is where you come from.
Right.
And those are opposites.
Yes.
So
and those are oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anna.
No, that's basically what I know, but I haven't really go deep into the past lives in astrology. There is a lot of literature about this subject. This is something
Indeed. Well, I have no doubt that those nodes, you know, show up and are important. But the point is, I think that you have been making to just distill it, is that this is really, astrology is really the art of understanding what are subconscious trends and then going through a healing process by not activating the things that we don't want to activate and stimulating the things that we do wish to activate. In other words, really making new neural patterns.
Yes, totally. And the most important thing here is to realize that we are a whole. So we tend to say, this is what I like of me. This is what I'm going to develop. This is what I don't like of me. So that let's get rid of it. And astrology tells you this that you don't like is precisely what you are.
Indeed.
So start accepting that. And when you accept the things that you don't like and the things you like, you start to develop a different view of how can I manage all the energies and not divide myself against myself.
Indeed. And sometimes a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. For instance, I never went to a decent, overly skilled astrologer. I did have a natal chart done who told me some things, and I carried a belief that Moon in Capricorn absolutely indicated an absent, uninvolved father. So I saw it as a negative thing. Now, I had one talk with you casually, and you simply said, well, yes, that can be that, but it can also be this. And you told me about the potential positive implications that Moon in Capricorn could have. And it's like, well, so what? My dad wasn't around. So what? I'm not really concerned about that right now. That's a fact. But what's important is how I take these predispositions, these talents that are being shown to me, and then stimulate them beyond the cold hard facts, as it were. So that's something that anybody could do if they went to a qualified, wonderful astrologer like yourself. They would be able to see beyond the obvious, because it's a question of degrees. I'm no expert, but as I understand it, Anna, a planetary influence, it's all about how it's aspected, how many degrees are involved. So just, your moon is in Capricorn is not really saying all that much.
Yeah. Well, the moon, yeah, exactly. It's a lot of elements that are in your chart, and you need to look at those that are repeated. The moon particularly, it's very important because as a species, we are still in the moon.
Yeah, we're lunar.
We long for home to go back. We want security. We don't want change. We want love. We want a God that loves us. We are still in the womb of the mother. We want to be there. That's what we want. And as a species, we need to leave the moon. But the moon that gives us security, that security gives us with how the circumstances of our childbirth was. So if we were into a family that was always fighting, we will feel safe fighting. If we grown in a house that was very cold, we probably will be affected by cold, but we will have our home very cold. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of little things, and that's when we are in the moon, we are protecting ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when we are protecting ourselves, we don't have enough energy to go out.
Yeah.
So certain moons, like the moon in Capricorn, gives the impression that the person is a child is very mature, and when they grow up, they look very mature, but still they are a child. Mm-hmm. So it's a conscious of what makes me feel safe. How do I get out of there and take the qualities that this moon is giving me? And that's and for example, as a species right now, there is a strong subject that I want to share with the people who is seeing this and with you. That is on the one hand, in March there was this conjunction of Pluto and Jupiter. So that meant a lot of death, people, and in Capricorn. But it's on a quality level. It means that there is a huge shatter of the structure that is holding us together. So governments are going to be put into a difficult spot during this time, and they are going to be shattered. And those who are not strong enough, they are going to die. They are going to fall down. The governments as a whole, the idea of government, how we evolve, etc., etc. That's one theme, and and the other theme is Saturn, Uranus. These two planets are in quadrangle right now, and that means that there is a thing right now that is limit between freedom, limit and freedom. So this started in June. And in June, people started to get out of the being inside homes. They started to go out. Young people started to go to parties, you know, because they couldn't accept the limits, so they would go to get their freedom. So it's this strong energy is going to put people either in one size or the other. So you have people who are totally following all the instructions that their government says, or totally denying everything that has been said. And you have both sides. Mm-hmm. And then what can you do with you as an individual? Because you have these strong currents, you know, and there are people, put your mask, the other, no, don't put your mask, or things like that. So what mm-hmm. can you do is to, when Saturn is implicated, you need to accept the limits. Uh-huh. And that's one thing that we have a lot of difficulties as a species. We need to accept our individual limits.
Yes, we must.
So if you have a chronic illness, evidently you cannot go to a party in this situation. Or if you have somebody who has that in your family. But at the same time, Uranus is there. So it's an opportunity to find our freedom. So what is your area of freedom that you were not able to explore before because of the kind of life we had? Mm-hmm. Can you put that freedom, that area of freedom inside your life right now? Because that's what this time can give you an opportunity to do.
Indeed.
So that's one of the most important lessons for me as an individual that I wanted to share, because it's important to find our own need of freedom and give some kind of way of making that real. So if you cannot out with friends, can you create a special group with your friends that can you do something like telepathic connection? Or, you know, it's a time to be a little crazy. Mm-hmm. But can you be crazy without breaking the limits that could put your life in danger? So that's creativity.
It is. Well, that's why we need Aquarians. That's why we need Aquarian people, because that's our forte. Creating freedom, a feeling of freedom. And the reality is you cannot have any greater freedom than traveling the universe in your own mind. And one thing I will say is, with this whole situation since March, I've been able to get back into my program of meditation. And I mean, you know, who needs ayahuasca as far as I'm concerned? I don't need anything that strong or that fast.
I just
I'm like a rambler. I'm like a rambler American from 1966. I'm just going along and meditating. But Anna is completely right. This is again, you know, personal responsibility. Mm-hmm. We are given information and we have the free choice to use it to make ourselves happier and more productive and more creative, or we can take a small blinded view and simply say, well, you know, it's genetics. Well, guess what? Genes have to be activated. You can come in with a pattern of something maybe extremely negative genetically, but how you live and what you do and how you acknowledge it and where you put it determines whether or not those genes actually become activated. So everything is a challenge, a multi-dimensional challenge, Anna, I believe. I agree with you. And yet, you know, we are all one. As you said, these are ancient systems common to every sophisticated culture. And so we must also accept that these systems came to us from the antediluvian civilizations that populated this earth. But of course, we have global amnesia. That's another talk for another time. But Anna, oh my goodness, thank you so much for illuminating us. And please tell us, now I know you're also teaching, so please tell us about everything you're doing and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, especially that.
Especially.
Okay, so you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram with AB Neely. So it's easy. And I have a web page, but I'm working on that and it's not finished. So you can enter there and you will find a lot of links that don't work. Sorry for that. But it will be ready in a few weeks. And also I have a novel that is coming that is called Kalala with my publishing company, Promethea Press, that is open to anybody who has something interesting to say about these chaotic times. And I am also preparing a series of books about astrology and magic. So how can we connect with the universe through the vision of astrology and the tools of magic? And that's
so we got to go on to a part 2, do you think?
Leslie? I think we must. I think we must.
I would love to. This was so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, Anna. We will have you back real soon to speak further, especially, as people go through these challenging times, we can turn this around and look at it as a chance for personal evolution, because the science of astrology is completely in line with everything that I know about hypnotherapy and the subconscious and psychology. This is a wonderful, informative system, maybe designed to give us information so that we can progress as a people. Why would it be here if we weren't supposed to know?
I second that. That's for sure. So we're going to stay online after the recording, but maybe, Leslie, you want to wind us down in your usual way.
Well, I just want to thank the wonderful A.B. Neely for joining us today and discussing the incredible uses and implications of the ancient divination of astrology. And maybe we'll talk about the tarot a little bit. We didn't get into that too much, but I want to talk about that next time. And of course, Wes Roberts, thank you so much for co-piloting as always. And remember, everyone out there, we are not alone.
Bye, everyone.
And we're going to sign off from Contact. We'll see you again soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Contact TV.
We would like to thank our generous sponsors: Lightwork Hypnosis, Euphoria and the Euphoria Chronicles, Earth Mystery News, Conspiracy Culture Books, MUFON Canada, Free Experiencers, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and Variety Store Productions.
For guest booking information, please email Wes Roberts at producer@contacttv.ca. And don't forget to join us on Facebook and Twitter.